What is powdery mildew? From my understanding, powdery mildew is an airborne spores that go in your room and go after plants. And typically they go after plants that are a little bit weaker, plants that are not being grown right, or weaker genetics, or aren't being fed the right nutrients, and just are not strong. They will go after and attack those sort of plants. It's kind of like an airborne cancer to plants. It spreads very, very quickly. So powdery mildew could show up at any time. You'll notice just by seeing white stuff on your leaves, on the top of your leaves. Boom, you got a spot. Next day, boom, you got 5 spots. Boom, the next day you got 100 spots. The next day, 1,000 spots. The next day your whole room's covered. That's how fast it goes. It goes 5 days and your room could be covered. So have a sulfur burner on hand. You can actually clean your leaves. You can actually spray the leaves with like a preventive measure and then just clean the leaves. Actually, you can actually do that a little bit. If it gets too much, it's gonna be difficult. There are actually worse things you can get. Powdery mildew, in my opinion, is not the worst thing that you can get, and it's pretty common, and it's not that bad. It's a lot easier to deal with than other things, like spider mites. Spider mites is a little bit more difficult to deal with. And if you want to learn how to get rid of spider mites, look in the description for the link, and there's another video which we talk about how to deal with that issue. So powdery mildew attacks your plants. Powdery mildew will attack your plant like a disease will attack a human. It's going to try to devour and eat the plant to death. So that's really what powdery mildew is going to do, and it's going to spread very quickly. You'll look in your room one day and there'll be a little bit, and the next day there'll be a little bit more, and then the next day it's gonna be everywhere. I mean, everywhere. It's everywhere. It's like it's snowed in the room. This stuff just goes crazy. The interesting thing about powdery mildew is that even though it's there, there are ways to kill the spores and stop the reduction of the spread. The best way to kill powdery mildew, actually you can spray the plants with a couple of different things. Our flower shield works pretty good, but you want to do that pre-flower. You want to only be spraying your plants pre-flower, or at least before flowering starts. So flowering starts roughly, bud formation maybe week 2 or 3. You could probably spray up until about week 2 or maybe 3, but you don't really want to do it when a lot of the buds are really forming. That's the way to stop it, with spraying and pre-flower. How you stop powdery mildew, the spread of it, is sulfur burning. And how you sulfur burn to stop the spread of powdery mildew is that every week or twice a week, I would say twice a week, when the lights are off, with your sulfur burner, it's a little canister, and you plug it into the wall and it heats up. It's going to melt the sulfur powder and put sulfur smoke, whatever, all throughout your grow room. It's gonna smoke sulfur all through your room. You wanna do this when the lights are off, by the way. You do not wanna do it when your lights are on. What sulfur burning and smoking your room with sulfur is going to do, it will kill the powdery mildew. It'll still be there, but it's going to stop the spread, or at least slow it down significantly. So this is the duration. I would say every 3 days, you wanna sulfur burn with the lights off. And you wanna smoke, like you wanna turn the sulfur burner on, put the sulfur in the sulfur burner, and I would say turn it on for about, an hour, and then let the room fill up, and then turn it off. Let the room just sit in there with all the sulfur for a few hours, like 3 hours, let the room just emanate with sulfur smoke. And do that about twice a week with the lights off, and you will have effectively stopped the spread of powdery mildew. And here's the cool thing, you can do this in flower. And a lot of people will say, you can't burn sulfur during flower. It's going to do something to the buds, your buds will smell like sulfur or whatever. I never saw an issue, personal experience, I never saw an issue with burning sulfur in flower to stop powdery mildew. I never saw an issue with it. And everybody said, my stuff was fine. Like, once again, I have thousands of hours of growing experience. I've experienced firsthand on this topic. I've successfully conquered this problem of powdery mildew, and this is the way you want to do it. And it's very cost effective. You don't really have to do very much. As well, also, you want to keep your, with everything. I've talked about a few different topics. If you can see the other videos, you want to keep your temperature low. When your temperature and your climate conditions get out of control, it's going to accelerate the process. So yeah, sulfur burner is pretty cheap. I think you can get one up for under $100. The sulfur is maybe like 20 bucks. And it's just going to save your life. And if not your life, it's going to save your plant's life. So, and also if it gets too much powdery mildew, like, you know, it's okay to have some powdery mildew on the leaves, especially if you kill it with the sulfur burning. But if it gets to a lot of sulfur powdery mildew, it's going to get on your buds. It's going to lower the value of your end product because there's going to be powdery mildew. And that can be tested for too. They can find powdery mildew. It's going to not look good if you have a lot of end product with a lot of powdery mildew on it. That's about it. And if you like the value in this video, smash that subscribe button and the like button. And check out our other future videos for more content that can help you grow.